Never in my wildest dreams did I picture myself caught up in a police standoff over a mountain cabin, but life has a way of throwing you into the fire just when you thought you'd found peace. The warning signs had been there hidden beneath the pines long before those sirens ever painted Pine Ridge County in red and blue. When Sarah inherited her uncle's cabin, it felt like winning a small piece of paradise. 5 acres of untamed Colorado wilderness, a wraparound porch with a view so wide it made deadlines vanish, and a stone fireplace that had warmed more than one family over the decades. Uncle Robert, God rest him, always preached about minding your own business, trusting the land, and letting people be. According to the estate lawyer, everything was crystal clear. Private property, no debts, and the deed predated any pesky homeowners association by decades. Those first days, nothing felt more right. Hours spent wandering beneath towering pines, dirt under the fingernails from planting Sarah's first garden, hammers echoing off timber as we fixed up the old place. Even the silence out there sounded richer, deeper somehow, like the earth itself was keeping secrets just for us. That was before Sarah spotted those battered signs nailed at odd angles along the main road. Pine Ridge Lakeside HOA Community Standards Enforced. It was almost funny. No one in their right mind would try to claim authority over this wild corner of the state, especially not over land Uncle Robert had held since the 60s. Then Karen Peekington's white Lexus crept up our gravel driveway one Sunday. She stepped out dressed like a CEO at a bake sale, hair-sculpted blazer, lined with HOA pins, clipboard, gripped tight enough to leave dents. She barely glanced at us, eyes roving over the porch, the pickup truck, the garden beds, like she was already tallying sins. Introducing herself as president of the Pine Ridge Lakeside HOA. Karen cut straight to business. No transfer paperwork on file. She sniffed her tone sharp enough to slice bread. Sarah, always the calm one, explained about inheriting the cabin, about Uncle Robert, about the deed. Karen laughed, a sound more cold than kind. Oh, honey, everyone says that. Every property within 5 miles of Pine Ridge Lake falls under our jurisdiction. Then came the violations, piles of lumbergrass too high, bird feeder too close, and the old pickup. Fines stacked up like storm clouds, $5,000 for a transfer fee, $3,000 in overdue dues, board approval required to occupy the place at all. Before either of us could gather our thoughts, Karen was gone in a cloud of gravel dust. Nightmare doesn't begin to describe the next few weeks. Karen dropped by unannounced, snapping photos, taping warnings to the door, lecturing us about firewood flags and mailboxes. She made it sound like our only crime was trying to live a little too freely. The tension built with every new note, every thinly veiled threat. One evening after Karen's umpteenth lecture, Sarah finally broke. "This is harassment," she said, voice shaking but strong. Uncle Robert never dealt with this nonsense. That was the turning point, the moment to stop laughing and start fighting. Digging into county records, it became clear the HOA only covered some new development on the South Shore, not our remote patch on the North Shore. Zoned rural residential. No HOA, no Karen. No way in hell was she in charge. The next time she showed up, her usual smile faltered when she heard the truth. "You don't have authority here," she was told, plain as day. Karen barely missed a beat. "The sheriff will sort this out." Her threat hung in the air, heavy as a thundercloud. Weeks later, that storm finally broke. Sarah called with a tremor in her voice. Deputies were on the porch. Karen had dialed 911, accusing Sarah of breaking into her own home. Racing up that winding mountain road, panic and fury duked it out in my chest. 2 sheriff's cruisers waited in our driveway. Sarah stood firm, clutching our deed, while Karen hovered nearby, arms crossed, mouth twisted into a smug little knot. The lead deputy took his time with our paperwork, then fixed Karen with a stare colder than the lake in spring. "Ma'am, this property is legally owned by Sarah Mitchell. Can you explain why you reported a burglary?" Karen sputtered about missing paperwork and her duty to keep the neighborhood safe. But the deputy's voice hardened. "HOA disputes are civil matters. What you made was a false emergency call." It should have ended right there, but Karen's grip on power wouldn't let her walk away. Cameras went up, neighbors were consulted, and the truth poured out. Dozens of longtime property owners shared stories, threats, fines, warnings. Most had paid up, afraid of legal battles. A retired county planner quietly pulled out ancient zoning maps, showing boundaries that had never included our land. Attorney Patricia Hawkins' sharp, relentless confirmed what we'd begun to suspect. Someone had doctored the HOA's digital maps, tacking on cabins and lots that never belonged. Fraud, plain and simple. If Karen had collected money under false pretenses, she was in for a world of trouble. The formal complaint was filed. The investigation that followed hit like a spring avalanche. County officials subpoenaed HOA documents, traced bank statements, pulled login records. Every altered boundary, every fraudulent letter, every dollar of bogus dues led straight back to Karen's personal login. The unraveling was spectacular. Karen lashed out threats, last-minute meetings, a smear campaign in the local paper. But by then, her power had already crumbled. The county hearing was standing room only. Karen sat slumped at the end of the table, blazer wrinkled eyes downcast as the board chair laid it out in front of everyone. "Mrs. Peekington, you falsified documents, extorted your neighbors, and abused your authority. This matter is referred to the district attorney." Karen lost it, shouting about property values, about how she was the glue holding the community together. Nobody bought it. 2 weeks later, the verdict was in. Guilty on every count: fraud, forgery, racketeering. 5 years behind bars. $450,000 in restitution. The news showed her being led away, still shouting about rules, but all anyone heard was the click of handcuffs. That night, the cabin felt different. Peaceful, finally. Sarah and I sat on the porch watching the sun melt into the mountains. The old place was ours again, quiet, simple, free of anyone else's idea of order. If there's anything that stuck with me, it's this: real power doesn't announce itself with rules and fines. It's earned, built over years, the way Uncle Robert lived, with quiet strength, respect for the land, and respect for people's right to be left alone. When someone tries to take more than they're owed, the world has a way of righting itself, sometimes in the most unexpected ways. Justice isn't always neat. Sometimes the scars last long after the bad guys are gone. Sometimes standing up means risking everything, but letting bullies win costs even more. So where do we draw the line? When does defending what's yours become something else entirely? Do rules protect us, or are they just weapons in the wrong hands? If you've ever tangled with someone who abused their position or found yourself fighting a system stacked against you, I want to hear about it. How did you make it through? What would you have done in my shoes? Drop a comment. And let's talk about what justice really means out here, where the mountains keep their own secrets.